On behalf of the Master's degree in Southeast European Studies, Politics, History and Economics at the National Kapodistrian University of Athens, I am the current director, Susanna Verney, and I'm very pleased to welcome our guest, Professor Luciana Ghica from the University of Bucharest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
We're very pleased that you're with us today. So we would like to talk about a very important issue, which is the impact of the Russian aggression against Ukraine, which has had very important geopolitical implications, of course, and how this has affected Romania. And of course, Romania is in the NATO front line in this conflict. It has a border of about 600 kilometers with Ukraine, and some Russian missiles have been landing just a few hundred meters from Romanian territory. So how has this impacted on Romanian society? How much concern is there about potential consequences for Romania? And how strong is the sense of threat?
It really depends when we are talking about the time of this conflict. If you asked me this question last year, probably people were feeling more threatened, especially during the first 2 months. There was the feeling that the conflict might easily spill over, then Russia could perhaps attack more and involve a NATO state, including Romania. So there was this fear for about half a year. This fear diminished a bit as the conflict had its different moments, but at some point, indeed, as you mentioned, some remains of various missiles landed close to the border, also on the Romanian side. We do have this as a fact. Initially, the Romanian authorities denied that this ever happened, and then there was the investigation of several journalists, and we know that it actually did happen, and the Romanian authorities had to admit, yes, but it was a mistake, maybe it was a Ukrainian missile that landed by accident. Let's not inflate the situation more than it's already for all of us. So obviously Romania, like the other NATO members, do not want the war to spill in our territory or to involve NATO directly. There is support for Ukraine on behalf of the Romanian government. Initially there was almost no military support, at least not in the form of equipment, or at least not much of it. And this is what we know from what the Romanian authorities declared. First of all, they were very skeptical when it came to making public what they provided. And many analysts consider that, on the one hand, this reflected the fact that a part of the equipment that could have been donated was very old, of Soviet origin. It was okay to get rid of it, but it was in no shape to be donated. I mean, if you donate something, it should be at least functional. So in order to avoid public shaming, the type of narrative was, yes, we are supporting fully. However, there was no public indication of what exactly we are supporting. There was even an interview with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs done by journalists from very well-known Western European media outlet. And the journalist insisted, but what exactly have you done? You know, in a democracy, you have to be accountable for your own citizens. How many weapons did you send? And the minister skillfully avoided the answer for that. However, the military support was announced this summer by the Romanian president as an increased type of support for Ukraine. However, this is certainly not the focus of what Romania does for Ukraine. Most of the support has been in legal terms. Romania was very active in the international multilateral fora to co-sponsor resolutions at the United Nations, contributed to the fund of the International Court of Justice and to the funds of the International Criminal Court for investigating the war crimes and atrocities in the conflict, and also had some significant economic support for Ukraine, for the refugees. There was a program for about a year, but most significantly, the grains from Ukraine can transit Romania through Danube, and that became a major lifeline for these flows.
Okay, thank you. Romania has long had a close relationship with Moldova, and I wondered to what extent concerns about Moldova have impacted on the way in which Romania has responded to this war.
Oh, very much. Because obviously Moldova would have been the next target, or would be a target for attracting more instability in the region, especially since a part of the Moldovan territory is not fully under the authority of the government in Chisinau, since we do have basically a Russian occupation there. Theoretically, in de facto, we are also having a local clan that is controlling Transnistria. So the worry was there from the very beginning, and the Romanian government's skepticism in being very aggressive publicly about what it does in terms of military support is related to this as well, because it didn't want to anger Russia so much as it affects Moldova more than it already affected. However, the Romanian government did support any type of international dialogue that could strengthen the Moldavian independent position, and it supported from the very beginning a trilateral dialogue: Ukraine, Moldova, Romania, and actually that happened for the first time in the history of these three neighbors. After the war, we had a trilateral meeting of the ministers of foreign affairs, which became a very frequent type of meeting, and it continues also at the level of other politicians, ministers. So it is a format that probably will continue to be important in the region also after the war, which we all hope will finish sooner.
Indeed. I would like to pick you up on something that you mentioned a little bit earlier, which is the refugees. So Romania has been very much in the front line of receiving refugees. How well have the Romanian authorities responded to the challenges associated with this, and how are the Ukrainian refugees received in Romanian society?
That's a very interesting question. More than a year and a half since the conflict, because actually today I think we are exactly one year and a half. Mostly because what we had initially was civil society response. The Romanian authorities were present from the very beginning, but they were perceived as not doing enough, not being coherent enough, not explaining enough, pushing aside the volunteers. Initially they claimed that they don't need anyone, but it was obvious that there was a significant need for support. They didn't communicate publicly what we could do if we want to support, what the refugees could do if they want to come. So there were a lot of civil society initiatives in classic civil society organizations, but also in academia. And what was very interesting was that it really went through, cross-cut through all types of classes, genders, when it came to this support. For instance, in our university, the coalitions for support came not only from students and professors but also from administrative staff, and it was something really unique because usually this is a very classist environment, as we know in this region, and not only. And it was for the first time in the history of our university that we felt that we are a community, not just professors and students, but we are a community as a university. So that created a sort of feeling that we are a community also beyond the university, and it created a feeling that Romania can help, and the authorities were also pushed by the civil society to be more active, at least in communicating what they are doing. And an initiative came from Code for Romania, which is a very interesting initiative that just recently went global. They use the IT expertise to put together resources that are useful for a need. In this case, the needs of the refugees and the needs of those who want to support. So that was the largest and the biggest platform that was created in partnership with the Romanian government, but also the UN Refugee Agency, the International Organization for Migration. Before that, it was a pilot initiative that we created at the University of Bucharest, UNIFOR Ukraine, but the largest one at national level was created by Code for Romania in partnership with the government. So the government was doing a lot, but was not capable to communicate very, very well. Also, when you asked about how refugees were received, initially it was a huge enthusiasm, especially because people recognized in the images in the region we have sometimes similar architecture, especially the communist one. So many people felt that it could have been in their courtyard, in their block of flats, in their neighborhood, and they saw the faces of the people like them, and they saw women with children in need, and they felt this. On the other hand, it was a type of refugee that was like us. It was white-skinned women with children. So there was a kind of racism there because, for instance, the first refugees were not Ukrainians. The first refugees were foreign students. And they had a lot of trouble getting out of the country, and we had to mobilize in universities in Romania to actually help, because many were, and also professors from Ukrainian universities contact us personally, and then we realized, more of us, that this is a structural problem. So we were seeing some initially in the first week some different treatment of the refugees, the academic refugees that were coming from countries where people do not necessarily look like us. But when the women and children came, everybody was opening the gates. There were wonderful stories about this, but the number of refugees that came to Romania, when we look at the statistics, is quite high. It's more than 2.5 million, but mostly came for transiting towards different directions. So Very few remain, less than 100,000, mostly women with children. Very few are actually having the skills to get a long-term job. Many do not want that. Many of them return to Ukraine actually. They do not necessarily transit towards safer places, but when things are better, they go back, including students who got refuge in our universities and could continue their studies, and after just one semester, for instance, went back. They didn't continue because they really felt they missed their family and their home, even if they were safer in Romania. Sometimes some are coming back twice, 3 times, but obviously there is no significant feeling that they can take roots in Romania. Some of them who lost everything, however, they realized that it's much safer, so they started to learn Romanian. There are language classes offered by universities, by NGOs. There is a program of the government, a strategy of the government that tries to cover this as well, but for the moment it's still unclear what will happen. And we do have a very particular problems because a lot of the refugees that remain are, as I told you, women with young children and old people, and many have significant problems in accessing medication, accessing hospitals, in accessing jobs. Women with small children do not have the possibility to leave their kids somewhere and go to a job, so there is a potential problem of increasing vulnerability, and with that an increased feeling of rejection of the refugees, because in the region and in Romania also there has been a very significant anti-poverty discourse, but not anti-poverty as a process, but anti-poors. And poors have been stigmatized, vulnerable populations have been frequently stigmatized, so we're fearing that there might be soon several layers adding to this type of stigma in the Romanian society.
Well, thank you very much, and I think that your comments about the refugees are of course very revealing about the situation in Romania, but I think many of the things you say probably apply to quite a few other countries in the region as well. So thank you very much for this discussion and for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you for hosting me here at your wonderful master, which we hope that will have as many years as it had until now.
Thank you very much.